up? What's happening? What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the animation station. I'm excited to just ranting and everything animation, and as well as stuff that's live action every now and then. And I'm falling behind a bit, so I'm gonna have to really rush these two. So tonight we're getting Lost Galaxy and Lightspeed Rescue, and then tomorrow I'm gonna do Time Force and Wild Force to help me catch up a bit. So I'm going to speed run this one a little bit. I'm sorry, I don't mean to do this season injustice, but I just really gotta get these done before I fall behind any further. I do not want this month getting canceled. So let's start with the main cast, shall we? For the main Rangers, we have Kendricks, played by Valerie Vernon, as Pink Ranger, Maya, Yellow Ranger, played by Serena Vincent. Sorry. Damon, the Green Ranger, by Reggie Roll, Kai, the Blue Ranger, by Archie Coe, Leo, the Red Ranger, played by Danny Slavin, and he's an alright Red Ranger. And then you have Mike, who is the Magna Defender, and he is played by Russell Lawrence. And then episodes 32 to 35, Pink Ranger, well, we'll talk about it in a minute, but a new Pink Ranger ends up stepping in, and that's Corone. Yeah, the good version of Astronema. He was played by returning Melody Perkins straight from In Space. And speaking of In Space, that's the crossover of the season as well, a two-parter, which we'll talk more about later. But the In Space Rangers, of course, you have Cassie, Ashley, Carlos, TJ, and Andros. No Zane. Bit weird, but okay. Or maybe Zane is in it, and I just don't remember. I don't know. And then we get to the supporting cast. We have Zika, played by Ryan James, Commander Stanton, played by Tom White, High Counselor Raynor, played by Betty Hankins, Counselor Brody, played by Jack Betts, Alpha returns, Decker returns, Bulk returns for his final season, and Professor Phenomenus returns for his also final season. And then Skull gets a little cameo to say that they left Skull behind. That feels weirdly out of character, so yeah, I don't buy that. That's a bad way to send that character off. And then Jera's played by Richard Grant, and Jodie Stanton's played by Rosario Grew. Self-explanatory. Then we get to the villains. We have Scorpius, voiced by Kim Strauss, Trakina, played and voiced by Amy Miller, Furio, voiced by Tommy Weiner, Chucharon, voiced by Derek Stephen Prince, Deviot, who's voiced by Bob Pappenbrook. Yeah, the guy who voiced few other characters in Mighty Morphin. Vilmax is voiced by David Lodge, Kegler is voiced by Richard Casino, and the foot soldiers of the season is the Stingwingers. They're not worth caring about. Then to add on to that, you have the return of the Psycho Rangers for one last time, with Psycho Red, Psycho Blue, Psycho Black, Psycho Yellow, and Psycho Pink, for that 1-2-part crossover. And then finally, you have the Villains of the Lost Galaxy, which is only like a 3-2 episode arc. You have Captain Mutiny, voiced by Mike Reynolds. He's a cool design, but he's not a great villain. Barbarex, voiced by Richard Epcar. Hexaba, voiced by Raja Barudi. Titanosaur, who has an unknown voice, and then Foot Soldiers are the Swabbies. Like I said, they're only in a few episodes, so they're not really worth explaining on, but Captain Mutiny's design's alright. But that's all I got for that. Moving on to the weapons. The universal weapons for the Rangers are the Quasar Sabers, which they pull out of the rocks in the very pilot episode of the series, and the Trans Daggers. And then for the Rangers' specific weapons, you have the Magna Talon for the Red Ranger, Cosmic Claw for the Blue Ranger, Trans Blaster for the Green Ranger, Delta Daggers for the Yellow Ranger. Yeah, Yellow Ranger's back to using daggers again. And Pink Ranger is back to using bows again, with a Beta Bow. And then you also have the Quasar Launchers, or whatever. And then the Magna Blaster for the Magna Defender, obviously. And then for the Battleizer, you technically have two in this season. You have the Lights of Orion armor, which is that gold armor you see them sometimes wearing. And then you have the Red Armored Ranger, which is Leo's specific Red Ranger Battleizer. And then for the vehicles, this is also a pretty short section. You have the Astro Mega Ship returning from In Space. you have the Jet Jammers, you have the Astro Cycles, and then specific to the Red Ranger, you have the Capsular Cycle. Sorry, I'm getting tongue-tied. Then moving on from there, you have the Zords, which are the Galactabeasts, and unlike most seasons, there's not like a switch up halfway through the season with different new Zords now. This one sets a new status quo of one new team, completely different cast, and one set of Zords for pretty much the whole runtime. They'll have some extras in there, but it won't have a completely new Megazord again. Unless it's like a 6th Ranger. That's usually the status quo. But yeah. Lion for red, Condor for green, Gorilla for blue, Wolf for yellow, and Wildcat for pink, and then Torozord for the Mega Defender. And then for the Megazords, you only get 2 this time. You get the Galaxy Megazord, which is the normal combination with the Galactabeast, and you have the Defender Toro, and the Torozord combines with the Galaxy Megazord. So, yeah. That pretty much finishes off the information section. Now let's get to the essential episodes, the episodes you absolutely have to watch in this season. So, let's begin, shall we? We have Quasar Quest Part 1 and 2, that's the pilot. You have Race to the Rescue, that's the intro Trakina. You have the Lights of Orion, which starts a pretty long arc of this series. It's the first part of the Orion arc, and it's the intro of the Astro Cycles. You have the Magna Defender, intro of the Magna Defender, obviously, and no, it's not Mike. Mike doesn't become Magna until later. Then you have Sunflower Search, which is part 2 of the Magna Defender arc, as well as the intro of the Torozord. Then you have Orion Rising, which is the second part of the Orion arc, and the third part of the Magna arc. Then you have Orion Returns, which is the end of the Orion arc, and then part 4 of the Magna arc. Yeah, 2 arcs are kind of playing simultaneously in 2 episodes. It's weird. It's almost like they were running out of ideas. Then you have Redemption Day, which is the end of the Magna arc, and then Destined for Greatness. This is when Mike becomes the Magna Defender and joins the team. And then, in probably the best filler episode of the entire series, and one of my personal favorite episodes of the entire series, Rescue Mission. This is pretty much Power Rangers' homage to James Cameron's Aliens. And it's just as awesome as it sounds. Seriously, Rescue Mission, such an awesome episode. Absolutely need to watch that one. Then you have Lost Galactabeasts Part 1 and 2, it's the intro of Deviant. Then you have Heir to the Throne, this is the end of Scorpius, and where Trakina starts to try to take control somewhat. And then you have the 2-part crossover with In Space. You have To the 10th Power, that's Part 1. And then Part 2 is The Power of Pink, which is the second part of the In Space crossover. And in a extremely shocking twist, the first ever on-screen death of a Power Ranger. Yeah, it hits like a freight train. Like, it is... It is a tragic, shocking way to end the crossover, and it made sense for why it happened, because the actor that played Kendricks was sadly diagnosed with cancer, and she had to leave the show to do chemotherapy. It ended up working, so she was able to come back in the finale, even though it made no sense. And now she's I believe, some kind of interior designer, I believe? I'm pretty sure, yeah. Pretty sure she is an interior designer now, so. But, yeah. It's sad that a Ranger character actually dies when it's supposed to be a fun crossover, but that's what happens when you get the Psycho Rangers involved. Someone's apparently just gonna die. So, there's still really great episodes, though. Then you have Protect the Quasar Saber. This is the return of Corone, and this is the episode she becomes the new Pink Galaxy Ranger. And then you have Facing the Past. This is the intro of the Battleizer, specifically the Red Armor Ranger. No, the Lights of Orion. The Lights of Orion was way back in Orion Returns. Then you have Escape the Lost Galaxy, which is the end part of a 3-episode arc, but it's the only one worth watching, because the Lost Galaxy arc itself kind of sucks. It's only 3 episodes. It's very short, and it's not very interesting. But the last of the episodes, Escape the Lost Galaxy, is worth watching for 2 reasons. One, it is the last episode before the finale. And then number 2, it's the final episode of the Magna Defender. Mike doesn't die or anything. The Magna Defender powers just go away. So, yeah. And then you have the 3-part finale. Yeah, it's 3 parts instead of 1. Journey's End, where Trakina morphs with one of the other villains and ends up, going crazy. Literally turning the Stingwingers into suicide bombers. It's just as wild as it sounds. Not to mention one of the first Power Rangers seasons to have on-screen battle damage with a cracked visor. Like, this season got real serious real quick. But it's a great finale. With that all done, what are my overall thoughts on Lost Galaxy? Very good. Not nearly as great as In Space, but very good. It feels kind of like an epilogue to the story that In Space concluded, in a way. Because it is a space opera, the Space Rangers are in 2 of the episodes, has the Psycho Rangers returning, and it's the last Power Rangers season specifically set in outer space. So in a way, it feels like an epilogue of what In Space concluded. And as an epilogue, it works pretty good. And as for the suit designs, they're okay. The Charlie Brown stripes don't really work for me, but the helmets are cool at least, so I'll give them a pass. And it's not like Wild Force where they have freaking claws at the end of the gloves. I'll get to that one. Like, that was a stupid design choice. But overall, I really like Lost Galaxy. It works well as a second part to In Space, and it feels like the full true send-off of the Zordon era, because from here on in, things are going to start shifting. Not only because Disney's going to come in and swoop up the rights, starting with the back end of Time Force into Wild Force, but also because the seasons from here pretty much become exactly like Lost Galaxy. New team, new design, new Sentai they took footage from. Every time. There's no, 2 seasons or anything like that anymore. Well, until the Nickelodeon seasons, the Neo Saban era as it's called, but we have a long way to go before we get there. But as for Lost Galaxy, 7 out of 10. It's very good. It's a very good season that's still worth watching, but it's a far cry from In Space. Just my personal opinion. Alright, that's all I got. See you for Lightspeed Rescue.